Last week, Bungie formally announced their next expansion plan, which is going to be their first release without Activision being fully in charge. And yes, Season of Opulence released after they announced the split, but that was already announced and created well before they told Activision to go fuck themselves, like I tell the YouTube owner the whole time. Now, during their live stream announcement, they went over a number of changes the game is making as a whole. Not just content, but just how Bungie plans on self-publishing Destiny without Activision. And during the stream, they mentioned quite a few changes and pointed their finger at Activision as to why these changes never occurred in the past. Now, they never mentioned them by name, but indirectly, they basically said, Activision, go fuck yourself. And look, as someone who loves watching Activision getting kicked in the dick, there are a few things that Bungie said that really made me scratch my head, because while you can certainly blame Activision for a number of things, they're not fully to blame for all the bullshit that occurred, but Bungie decided to blame them anyway. Now, I want to make this perfectly clear. I don't think there is anybody on this planet that believes Destiny was helped in any way, shape, or form by Activision. No fucking way. You can run down the list of things that Activision did or got involved with Destiny, and that list is guaranteed to be an itemized receipt of fuck-ups this franchise has. There are things that they indirectly did that ended up helping, but Destiny getting away from Activision is a step in the right direction. So don't get this shit twisted. Bungie taking over the franchise is better than Activision being a part of it. However, that doesn't mean the franchise is saved or will be fixed, because Bungie is more than capable of fucking things up on their own. I think blaming Activision for all of Destiny's issues or referring to Activision holding them back is not 100% accurate, because you have to remember the relationship of a publisher and a studio and how that works. Activision fronts the money to make Destiny. Activision does the marketing, the publicity, the marketing deals. Along the way, Activision wants their money to make more money, because obviously video games are an investment to them. So they do get involved to some extent to push studios to grow the franchise and bring in more money, but Activision doesn't get involved in the day-to-day shit. Think of Activision as the owner of a sports team, rich, makes billions of dollars in a year, and thinks of the players as the studios. The owners want their players to succeed, and they want to win so that they can make more money. But when a baseball player is fucking up, an owner isn't going to offer them hitting advice. The owner doesn't go to practice to coach them. You don't see owners telling a pitcher, this is what I think you should do. You don't see owners trying to adjust a basketball player's shooting mechanics or devising defensive schemes for a football team. They don't do that shit. Neither does Activision. So what did Bungie refer to that Activision is and isn't responsible for? And what fuck-ups did Bungie not mention that they were responsible for during the stream? And again, I don't want Activision on Destiny, but blaming them for everything is just outright incorrect. So let's start with the biggest announcement that people enjoyed hearing: cross-saves. Players can now take their characters and progress them across any system and cross-save that shit. Something Destiny basically said Activision was at fault for not having. That is bullshit. In no way, shape, or form would Activision have been the ones responsible for that. The company that pissed on that idea would have to be Sony. Sony has not wanted to give in on cross-saves this generation, and to be honest, I don't blame them. Well, I won't get into the details since that's another video for another day that I'll probably never get a chance to do. The basic premise is that when you are this far in front in sales and revenue, you don't throw a bone to your competitor. Same way Microsoft didn't want to do it with 360 when they had a lead in PlayStation 3. They didn't want to do anything with PlayStation 3. The same thing is happening now that PlayStation 4 leads Xbox One in sales. Anyways, getting back into the point of Activision, they have a number of exclusive deals with Sony on multiple franchises, which include Call of Duty. Xbox and PC can certainly cross-save, but PlayStation 4 would have been the holdout console on that deal. I can all but guarantee the reason Destiny didn't have cross-saves before is because Sony told Activision they don't want to allow it. And Activision told Bungie, you can't do it because it's going to affect our Sony deal. I will guarantee that is the reason. But it's much easier to blame Activision now that the partnership is over than to blame Sony, who you continue to need to have the console to play your game. There is no logical reason why Activision on their own wouldn't want cross saves. So blaming Activision for that was Bungie's way of avoiding some kind of confrontation with Sony. And since PlayStation 4 has triple the fan base of PC and the Xbox for the franchise, there was no way in hell Bungie was going to blame Sony on that one. Speaking of Sony, their exclusivity deals are now gone. Since the deal was with Activision and not Bungie directly, there will be no more console exclusives, which, to be all honest, is a great fucking thing. Bungie did not directly blame Activision for this, but ever since the announcement that their partnership was over, people knew that exclusivity license with Sony would finally end. There is no denying, though, that was some bullshit from Activision. But again, Bungie wasn't going to bite the hand that feeds them, and they didn't want to piss Sony off. But that is something we can certainly blame Activision for. The PC version is now moving to Steam. Also, something Bungie blamed Activision for. Since Activision owns Blizzard, and Blizzard created and owns Battle.net, logic shows that Activision wanted to keep the PC version in the family. Similar to the exclusive deal with Sony, this was a common sense change. PC players knew it was going to be moved from Battle.net, and they had hoped Steam would be the recipient of the game. They got their wish. So yes, you can blame Activision for the decision to use Battle.net, since that was obviously their doing, but you understand why they did that in the first place. But again, Activision is certainly at fault for that one. Next item on the ticket, free to play, which, by the way, it's not fucking free. This is some serious bullshit on their part, and it damn near made me laugh my ass off. Destiny is not going to be like Warframe, where all the base products cost absolutely nothing, where they microtransaction the shit out of the game. Bungie is creating some base version of the game that will be free. Players will gain access to shit that we already paid for years ago, but if you want more than the free shit, you're still going to have to pay for expansions. Each expansion is still going to cost money. Shadowkeep is going to cost $35. Subsequent DLCs will continue to cost money. Microtransactions are still a big part of their funding, so all of this shit still costs money. There's no avoiding that. All they're doing is trying to entice people to play a free version of the game in hopes they will like it, stick around, and want to pay for the future versions. Free to play sounds like it has Activision's name written all over it, right? It sounds like Activision is responsible for that kind of decision, right? To be honest, I don't think that's fully the case. And I have absolutely no proof to think this. This is strictly opinion, but I think Activision is only part of the problem as opposed to the full-scale problem. And here's why. Activision has these quarterly earnings for their stockholders, like any publisher. EA does it, Ubisoft do it. And on those conference calls, that's their chance to brag about how well games are doing, or downplay how badly other games are doing. What Activision wants to say is that every game sold well beyond expectations, people are buying DLC, and we're making money hand over fist. In Destiny's case, the sequel did not sell as well as expected, the microtransactions were not coming in, because people got fed up with another shitty empty shell release of product. So, for 2 years, they were downplaying how badly Destiny performed revenue-wise. Behind the scenes, you know Activision must have been riding Bungie's ass. There's no way around that. They need to make more money. We gave you X amount of millions of dollars. We want to make X amount of millions of dollars. So you can only imagine how many times Activision told Bungie, get people to play the fucking game. I would have to assume the conversation of free-to-play came up. Someone would have had to have come up with the idea of offering the base game for free, right? You would think Bungie would have came up with that idea, right? Sounds logical. And then Activision probably declined it because they're fucking greedy, right? Doesn't this sound logical? Doesn't this sound like something Bungie would do and then Activision would turn around and say no? Here's the problem. In September of 2018, one of the free PlayStation Plus games for the month was Destiny 2. You could download the base game. You could get whatever content launched at that time, but when it comes to the free PlayStation Plus games, publishers are the ones that approve that. And since Forsaken launched in that exact same time frame, it's no coincidence what happened. That was part of a marketing ploy by Activision to get as many people as possible playing the game, offering something for free with their biggest console partner right now, which is Sony's PlayStation 4. Why is that so important? Because it takes away the plausible argument that Bungie has in blaming Activision. If Activision had already agreed to give a free PlayStation Plus version of the game, why would they decline the idea of a free-to-play base version of the game doing the exact same fucking thing? That doesn't make any sense for them to do. And it certainly doesn't make any sense that Bungie would try to say Activision didn't let them do this, because they already did it once before. Bungie claiming free-to-play as their own idea without Activision interfering, total fucking bullshit. Now look, it's quite possible that Bungie asked Activision for a free-to-play version, asked them to pull some weight with Sony to get it as the PlayStation Plus game, but they can't say that was solely their idea and their implementation. Activision may have begrudgingly agreed to it before, but they agreed to it. So we can't blame them for this shit. Now, on a related note, when it comes to the free-to-play idea, the idea is that expansions now for Destiny are going to be an a la carte purchase. Essentially, you can buy them independently without buying the prior expansions. If you like the look of one DLC, but you don't like the look of the next one, you're not forced to buy that next round. Personally, that's how DLC should be. Can Activision be blamed for this idea of season passes? Sure. Absolutely. You can easily make the argument that Activision wanted people to buy the whole product for money to keep people playing before they knew what the fuck was in the product. That is a total Activision move. But I also think it's Bungie being lazy. How many times has Bungie taken the lazy way out when it comes to things with Destiny? Think about that for a second. How many times have they done something lazy just to make it look like they did something at all? The idea that each DLC will be a la carte. Some part where you can just buy and other parts where you don't, where the community is no longer going to be 100% on the same product. They're now going to have parts where, say, someone has 70%, someone has 50%, someone has 40%, this player has 100%. How do you manage so many instances and licenses to piece that part of a game together as opposed to being a full product? Wouldn't it make sense to require people to own 100% of the game each and every time, to continue playing 100% of the game each and every time? Since Destiny 1, Bungie experienced this challenge, and the result was always the same. Force everyone to own the entire product. Now, whether that's Bungie's decision or Activision's decision, that's a completely separate argument, but you have to admit, it makes sense for Bungie to say we need everyone to have 100% of the game so that we don't have to do extra management and extra upkeep and maintenance. Even within the game, with free events and whatnot, they have a hard time determining what's free for everyone and what's paid content. They managed to improve that ideological split before Forsaken, but prior to Forsaken, they outright could not make it work, man. So I believe this a la carte approach to DLC isn't Bungie offering something they couldn't do without Activision. I believe they finally decided they have to manage multiple instances and licenses going forward, because keep in mind, Forsaken required all the previous content. The annual pass gave players all 3 DLC updates whether you wanted them or not. They bundled almost all of Destiny 2 together already. So saying a la carte now, 3 years, well into the product, this isn't exactly groundbreaking shit. So I have to lay blame at both Activision and Bungie on this one. Final thing Bungie mentioned was referring to Destiny as an MMO. Now, they didn't mention Activision directly or indirectly on this one, and quite honestly, that would make sense. I don't think Activision has ever cared what Destiny was referred to. Looter shooter, shared world shooter, diet RPG. Didn't fucking matter. But Bungie decided to announce it as an MMO and an RPG. Now, realistically, when you think of the term MMO, you think of World of Nerdcraft, EVE Online, right? These are some of the games that come to mind when you hear that term. When you hear RPG, you think maybe Final Fantasy, Mass Effect. Destiny does not immediately pop in your head when those terms come up, because it only has a small part of MMO games and very few RPG elements. It really is more of this shared world, looter, shooter, whatever the fuck. And a big reason why the game has never met those standards of the terms is realistically Bungie's ineptitude. The launch of both Destiny 1 and Destiny 2 have backstories that show the games went through developmental nightmares. Destiny's 1 story was scrapped, redesigned, they asked Activision for an extension, they got a 1-year extension, but Activision declined that second extension, so Destiny 1 released in a mediocre state. It had potential, it just didn't meet the potential at launch. Destiny 2 launched in a similar shitty state because, again, it was redesigned. However, the reasons for the redesigns and Activision's involvement varies. On Destiny 1, Bungie felt it mirrored Halo a little too much, so they wanted to redesign it and basically ask more time for Activision. Activision granted it, but again, only a 1-year extension. And keep in mind, Activision has very little input on the game since Bungie was funding and developing it way before Activision ever agreed to publish it. So the launch of Destiny 1 was entirely to blame on Bungie, not Activision. For Destiny 2, though, Activision told Bungie the game needed to appeal to more players. Only hardcore players stood around for the end of Destiny 1 when it came to Rise of Iron, so Activision wanted them to create a more inclusive game. Basically offer it up to more casual players so that they can be enticed to buy it and play it. You know, get the casuals to spend their money on the fucking game because they're stupid. After all, Activision's completely funded the game, so now they have much more input on the product. Bungie basically built Destiny 2 with Activision money. So we have to keep in mind, Bungie created that watered down shit. It's not like Activision told them, hey, fuck up the Crucible. Hey, remove player choices from their classes and give them only 2 subclasses to choose from. Don't let them use a Sparrow for 95% of the campaign. No. We want players to walk around that motherfucker. Make players slower to prevent massive skill gaps. Or build a raid based on a fucking daytime game show. Activision didn't do any of that shit. They just wanted the game to appeal to more casuals. Bungie went out thinking they can appeal to more casuals, and what do? They ended up watering down the game. Bungie took away the RPG elements. Bungie fucked up Trials of Osiris. Bungie missed opportunities like useful lost sectors, resorted the game down to being a fucking token simulator with Eververse purchases. They slowed down ranking up to get test Eververse packages because they wanted people to play longer. They fucking made Curse of Osiris, man. Not Activision. Activision didn't do any of this shit. So Bungie wisely did not mention being held back by Activision when it comes to making an RPG or MMO type game. Yes, the dickheads over at Activision wanted a more casual game that appealed to a broader audience. I get that. Bungie still had to make it. They didn't execute that shit at all. That's not Activision's fault. Activision was being greedy and wanted more money. Making the shitty product is still Bungie's own fucking fault. Now, I know that I'm sounding like I'm blaming Bungie for a number of things, and rightfully so. I don't trust Activision's ideas for games, since they don't really give a fuck about the gamer. All they care about are the money in our wallets. Getting Destiny away from Activision means the game is already in a better place. But that doesn't absolve Bungie of their mistakes. They can point their fingers at big bad Activision all they want. They can cleverly blame Sony by blaming Activision all they want. But Bungie has made mistakes on this game. Now, without Activision adding studios like High Moon, Raven, or Vicarious Visions to help, they're on their own. I still think that's a better scenario than being under the thumb of Bobby Kotick's criminal enterprise, but at the same time, I also know Bungie is more than capable of fucking things up without Activision. So again, when Shadowkeep comes out, we'll get to see exactly what Bungie's vision of the game is without Activision, what they were able to do without that Activision money, and see what they've done listening to all this player feedback that they claim they've been listening to all these fucking years, and see if they actually improved the product this time around. When Year 2 came out, Forsaken launched, and then the annual pass came out, and they said that we were going to get more strikes, more Crucible maps, and that shit didn't happen. It goes to show you they still lie when it comes to their product. That's not Activision lying. That's Bungie lying. So while I still will never trust Activision as far as I can fucking throw them, Bungie still has some trust issues on their own. So to blame Activision for everything wasn't correct. Bungie still has a little bit of blame when it comes to some of the problems of Destiny. However, they no longer have to be under the thumb of Activision when it comes to fixing it. So now that people understand exactly how the relationship works, feel free to blame both of these motherfuckers. So as always, rate, comment, subscribe, and all the good shit. And I'll see you guys in the next video.